All right, you ready for this? Today we're diving deep, deep into Supermicrocomputer Inc., SMCI.
Yeah,
This one's gotten everyone talking,
definitely a hot topic.
especially all this buzz about financial fraud allegations, right?
Absolutely.
So we're using finance influencer Sheila Wang's video.
Okay.
Is SMCI doomed?
Right.
What you need to know, and we want to figure that out.
Yeah.
Is this company a falling knife, or could it actually be a hidden gem?
Well, one thing that makes it really interesting is we have this ticking clock.
Oh, yeah.
November 15th.
A day.
Huge. SMCI's financial report release.
That's going to be a lot of pressure. Sheila Wang, she doesn't hold back. She
Right.
lays out what she calls like 3 strikes against SMCI.
Yeah.
Each one, I mean, they're all pretty serious.
Yeah, they're not messing around.
Like right off the bat, SMCI's been accused of similar stuff before.
And those past issues, they raise questions about their compliance too, which is huge because that could really impact their ability to raise capital.
Yeah, no, that's essential for any company, right? To keep growing.
It's like oxygen.
Exactly. And then strike 2. This one's a little bit of a curveball for me. Undisclosed related party transactions. Could you break that down? What are those and why is that such a big red flag?
Okay, so related party transactions, basically it's when a company does business with, people close to it,
Okay.
like executives or family members.
Oh, I see.
And the problem here is that we don't know the details.
Yeah.
It makes you wonder about how profitable SMCI really is.
Yeah.
Like, are these deals legit or are they just trying to,
Boost their numbers.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not a good look. No surprise their old auditors walked away.
Wow, their auditors bailed. That's strike 3, right?
Well, not quite. Strike 3 is this suspicion that SMCI might be ignoring those U.S. export bans and still selling to Russia.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, that's another whole layer of mess.
Yeah, no kidding. So we got a company facing some pretty serious allegations, multiple fronts, right?
Right.
And Sheila Wang, she points out that even though there's no formal investigation yet, these accusations could have some really serious consequences. Didn't we see something similar happen with companies like ZTE and SMAC?
Absolutely. Those companies, they went through some similar stuff. Sanctions, export violations, you name it.
Right.
And it wasn't pretty. Financial damage, reputation took a hit, the whole 9 yards.
Yikes. So it's safe to say SMCI is in a
tight spot.
a tight spot, yes.
For sure.
And then on top of that, Sheila Wang also breaks down what's happening with SMCI's stock performance.
Yeah.
And it hasn't been good.
Not good at all. It's down to like, what, $22.07?
Around there, yeah.
Which is, about where it was a year ago.
That's kind of crazy, right? Back to square one.
Makes you wonder, where will it go from here? Will it bounce back?
We'll just keep falling.
Who knows? But
Yeah.
those next few days, they're going to be crucial.
The big question, though, the one everyone keeps whispering about, is delisting.
The dreaded D word.
Right. Like, is SMCI actually going to get kicked off the NASDAQ?
Well, the thing is, they got to submit their annual report or somehow get back in compliance by November 16th
Yeah.
if they want to stay listed.
Right.
But with their auditor quitting, suddenly, like that,
That's not helping.
not helping at all. It's a long shot for sure.
Yeah, it sounds pretty bleak.
Yeah.
But didn't Sheila Wang say that the NASDAQ board, they have some power to review delisting decisions? Like, isn't there a chance there?
Yeah, they do have that authority.
Sure.
But you got to remember, they already gave SMCI a chance to fix things, and they didn't. So will they get another one? It's tough to say. NASDAQ, they got to balance everything, right? Their interests, maintaining the market's integrity.
It's not just about the rules, it's about their reputation, too.
Exactly.
But here's what I found interesting.
Yeah.
Despite all this drama, Sheila Wang, she seems kind of optimistic about SMCI's future.
She does, huh?
Yeah, what's she seeing that everyone else might be missing?
Well, I think her optimism is based on what SMCI actually makes, their products.
Yeah.
And the demand for that stuff is huge. They've got a solid reputation for server and storage solutions. And with cloud computing and data centers growing like crazy,
Yeah.
that need for their products, it's only going to go up.
So even with all this baggage, there's still a valuable core business there. Like, could this actually save them?
It could be their lifeline. I mean, that strong product portfolio, their market position, those are definitely assets in a storm like this. The question is, can they actually use those strengths while they're trying to fix these serious problems?
So it's like walking a tightrope, right?
Exactly.
So what are some steps they could actually take? Like concrete things to turn this whole thing around?
Well, here's where it gets interesting. Sheila Wang compares them to AMD. Remember how AMD bought that other company?
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Help them grow basically reinvented themselves.
Yeah, exactly. And she suggests SMCI could do something similar, maybe buy a company like ZT Systems.
Hmm. So it's not just about surviving, it's about, like, coming back even stronger.
A strategic repositioning, you could say.
That's a really interesting idea. But let's be realistic here. We're talking about a company with multiple allegations of financial fraud against them. Can they actually come back from that?
Yeah, that's the million-dollar question. It's a
Yeah.
steep climb, no doubt. But it's not impossible. Look, we've seen other companies weather similar storms and come out the other side, even stronger.
Oh, okay.
The key is transparency, taking decisive action, and a solid plan to rebuild that trust with everyone who matters.
So it all comes down to execution.
Pretty much.
Before we get too ahead of ourselves, though, let's go back to those 3 strikes, starting with those earlier allegations. What exactly went down there?
Back in 2020, they had these allegations of accounting irregularities.
Hmm.
There were concerns about how they were recognizing revenue
Okay.
and also their inventory management practices.
Mm.
So even though they weren't formally charged with anything, it definitely raised some eyebrows,
Yeah. Yeah, made investors and analysts nervous.
Exactly.
So it's not their first time dealing with controversy.
Nope.
It's interesting that those past issues are coming back to bite them now with these compliance concerns.
Yeah, it's all connected.
What exactly are these compliance risks, and why are they such a big deal now?
Compliance, it's like, think of it like the rules of the road for companies,
Okay.
making sure they operate above board, ethically, legally.
Got it.
And SMCI's history, combined with these new allegations,
Yeah.
it kind of suggests they might be struggling to stay within those lines.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a problem because it raises questions about their ability to access capital markets, secure contracts, even maintain their listing on the NASDAQ.
You mentioned access to capital markets.
Right.
How does compliance actually affect that?
So investors, especially the big institutional ones,
Yeah.
they really care about this thing called ESG,
ESG.
environmental, social, and governance factors.
Oh,
And compliance, that's a big part of the G governance.
I see.
If investors think a company has weak governance or a history of compliance issues,
Yeah.
well, they're less likely to invest, right?
Makes sense.
And without that investment, growth becomes really difficult.
It's like cutting off their lifeline.
Exactly.
So these compliance risks, they're not just abstract legal issues.
No, not at all.
They have a real impact on SMCI's ability to function and grow.
Absolutely.
It's all interconnected.
It is.
Now, let's go back to those undisclosed related party transactions.
Right.
You started to explain them, but I'd love to hear more detail.
Yeah.
What makes them so problematic?
So these transactions, it's when SMCI does business with people or entities that are closely tied to the company.
Okay.
And the concern is, are these deals really at arm's length?
Arm's length.
Meaning, do they reflect fair market value?
Oh, okay.
Without transparency, it's impossible to know.
Right.
And that casts a shadow over their financial performance.
Yeah, you start to wonder if their profits are real or inflated by these sweetheart deals.
Exactly.
No wonder those auditors walked away.
Yeah, can you blame them?
They probably felt like they couldn't vouch for SMCI's financials with all this uncertainty.
Right, auditors, their job is to provide assurance that a company's financial statements are accurate and fair.
Makes sense.
And if they lose confidence in management or the information they're getting,
Yeah.
they have to distance themselves.
So that makes the situation even more precarious for SMCI.
It does.
It's not just about finding a new auditor.
Right.
It's about rebuilding trust with the whole financial community.
Absolutely. That auditor's resignation, it adds a whole other layer of complexity to their challenges. It's likely to make raising capital more expensive.
Oh, for sure.
And it could further damage their reputation with investors.
It's like a domino effect.
Yeah, pretty much.
So we've got past allegations, compliance risks, shady transactions, and now a departing auditor.
It's a lot to handle.
It's like they're juggling chainsaws blindfolded.
That's one way to put it.
But Sheila Wang also highlighted the potential upside,
Right.
specifically their strong market position and the growing demand for their products.
Yeah, there's that.
Let's explore that a bit further.
Okay.
What are some specifics about their product line and their competitive advantages?
SMCI is a top provider of server and storage solutions, mainly for enterprise customers.
Okay.
They're known for their high-performance, energy-efficient products, which are super important in today's data-driven world.
Data is king, right?
It is.
So they're not just selling off-the-shelf products.
No, they're known for customization and flexibility.
Okay, so they can tailor solutions to specific customer needs.
Exactly. And that's a big advantage in a competitive market.
It is, but how do they stack up against the competition?
Well, they face some tough competition from big players.
Like who?
Dell, HP Enterprise, Lenovo.
Those are the big dogs.
They are?
But SMCI has carved out a niche, right?
They have, particularly in the high-performance computing segment. Their focus on innovation and customized solutions has given them an edge.
So they're not the biggest fish, but they're holding their own in a key segment.
Exactly.
That's encouraging.
It is.
Sheila Wang seemed really optimistic about the growth potential of their market.
Yeah, and there's good reason for that.
What's driving that optimism?
The demand for server and storage solutions is exploding.
Why is that?
Think about it. Cloud computing, big data analytics, artificial intelligence, the Internet of Things.
Those are buzzwords.
Right, but they're creating massive amounts of data.
Yeah.
Data that needs to be processed, stored, analyzed.
So companies like SMCI are in high demand.
Exactly. It's a huge opportunity for them.
Like they're in the right place at the right time, even with all these challenges.
It is kind of ironic.
They've got the products, the expertise, a growing market.
They do.
But can they overcome those three strikes and actually capitalize on this opportunity?
That's the big question.
That's the million-dollar question.
The upcoming financial report on November 15th will be telling.
Yeah, it'll give us a glimpse into their financial health,
For sure.
their ability to manage these allegations, and their plans for the future.
Exactly.
Speaking of that report, Sheila Wang also touched on SMCI's need for capital.
Right. They're going to need a lot of it.
They're projecting a pretty significant cash need in the next few years, right?
Yeah, their management has said they'll need up to $3 billion by 2025.
Wow, that's a lot of money.
It is, and they'll need it to fund growth, research and development, and maybe even make some strategic acquisitions.
But given everything that's going on, securing that kind of funding won't be easy, right?
Definitely not. Investors are already wary.
Yeah.
And that auditor resignation, that's just going to make them more hesitant.
So SMCI has their work cut out for them.
Big time.
They need to make a compelling case for investment, show they've got a plan to fix all this,
Transparency is key.
and prove they can regain the market's trust.
It's a tough sell.
It's like they're trying to convince investors to back a racehorse with a limp.
That's a great analogy.
They've got to prove they can still win the race.
They do.
So we've explored those three strikes.
Yep.
We dug into their market position, talked about their need for capital.
It's complicated.
It's a mixed bag, risks and opportunities.
Sure.
But we can't forget about the elephant in the room, delisting.
Right.
Can you walk us through that process and what it would mean if SMCI gets kicked off the NASDAQ queue?
Sure. Delisting is a serious thing for any company.
Yeah.
Basically, it means they're removed from the stock exchange,
Okay.
making it harder for investors to buy and sell their shares.
And what triggers that? Is it purely financial or are there other factors?
It's a mix of things. It's a mix of things. Exchanges like NASDAQ, they have these listing requirements.
Right.
Companies have to meet them. Things like financial performance,
Okay.
corporate governance standards, making sure they file their reports on time,
Got it.
and if they don't comply.
That can trigger a delisting review. So it's not just about making money, it's about following the rules.
Exactly. Transparency, accountability, it all matters.
It does.
And in SMCI's case, not getting that annual report in on time.
Right, because their auditors quit.
Yep. That's put them in a tough spot.
Yeah, walking a tightrope, for sure.
Delisting is a real possibility.
What happens if they actually get delisted? Is that like a death sentence for the company?
It's a huge setback, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Usually, you see the share price drop.
Makes sense.
Investors get worried about the company's future.
Right.
And raising capital gets even harder.
Because no one wants to invest in a company that's been delisted.
Exactly. Institutional investors especially, they tend to steer clear.
So it's like they're playing in a different league now.
Kind of. Fewer resources, less credibility.
Yeah, a tough climb back.
It is, but it's not impossible.
Oh, okay.
We've seen companies come back from delisting.
Really?
Yeah, restructure, rebuild, eventually regain their footing.
So there's hope, even in that scenario.
There's always hope.
Let's shift gears for a second and go back to Sheila Wang's analogy with AMD.
Right, the acquisition idea.
It's pretty intriguing, the idea that SMCI could buy a company like ZT Systems to kind of like revitalize themselves.
It's a bold move.
It is. What do you think about that?
It could work. It's risky, but the payoff could be big. AMD's turnaround after they bought ATI Technologies, that's a great example.
Oh, yeah, they really turned things around.
Exactly.
So how would buying ZT Systems help SMCI specifically? What kind of synergy are we talking about?
Well, ZT Systems, they specialize in high-performance computing and data center solutions.
Right, which aligns with what SMCI already does.
Exactly. It's a perfect fit.
Yeah.
An acquisition could give them a bigger product portfolio, new technologies, access to new markets.
It's like giving their growth engine a turbo boost.
That's a good way to put it.
But wouldn't something like that take a ton of money?
It would.
And with their current situation, that seems pretty unlikely.
You're right. Financing a big acquisition would be a huge challenge for them.
Yeah, especially if those financial and reputational issues hanging over them.
No doubt.
So it's a big gamble.
It is high risk, high reward.
They'd be betting everything on their ability to turn things around.
They would.
But before they even think about buying another company,
Right.
they got to deal with those 3 strikes.
Absolutely. Those had to be addressed first.
Which brings us back to that November 15th financial report.
The big day.
It feels like everything hinges on that report.
It does.
What should we be paying attention to? What are the key things that will tell us if SMCI is on the right track or headed for disaster?
First and foremost, we need to see action, real action, addressing those allegations.
Right, not just talk.
Transparency is key here.
Got it.
They need to break down those related party transactions
Yeah, give us the details.
and show they've taken steps to prevent those kinds of issues from happening again.
So not just, we're sorry, but here's how we're fixing it.
Exactly. They need to show they've learned from this and put better controls in place.
Rebuild that trust. Exactly.
And what about compliance?
That too, they need to show progress there.
Okay.
Reassure investors that they're serious about those regulations,
Yeah.
that they're committed to doing things the right way.
Brick by brick, rebuilding that trust.
Exactly.
And the auditor situation?
Right, that needs to be addressed head on.
Have they found a new auditor?
That's what we need to know.
Yeah, what are they doing to ensure that their financial reporting is accurate going forward?
These are the crucial questions.
So it's not just about the numbers.
No,
It's about the story they tell.
they need to convince the market that they're tackling these challenges
Right.
and that they have a plan for a better future.
They got to sell it, like a job interview.
Exactly. Convince the investors that they're the right candidate for the job.
Despite some, issues in the past.
We all have those.
That's a great way to put it. They need to show competence, commitment, and a clear vision for what's next.
That's what investors are looking for.
So, to wrap this up for our listener, November 15th, that's the day. D-Day for SMCI.
Make or break.
They've got a chance to address the allegations, showcase their strengths, and lay out a plan for recovery.
It's their shot to convince everyone they're not a falling knife, but a hidden gem.
Exactly.
This deep dive has been a wild ride. Allegations, risks, opportunities, even that threat of delisting.
It's been a lot.
It's a good reminder that investing, it's not a guaranteed win.
Nope.
You need to do your research, be a little skeptical,
Absolutely.
think critically.
Always.
But SMCI's story, it's not over yet.
Not by a long shot.
We'll be watching closely to see what happens.
It's a fascinating case study, corporate governance, crisis management, and how resilient people can be.
And to our listeners, stay informed, do your own research, and make those decisions based on the facts.
The world of finance is full of surprises.
Oh, that's for sure.
And SMCI, they're just one example of the ups and downs along the way.
Twists and turns.
It's investing for you.
That's life for you.
You got that right.